This World Cup features 48 teams, some representing nations of tens or hundreds of millions of people. One of those 48 teams represents a country of just over 500,000 people total. That's roughly the population of a mid-sized American city, competing against entire nations many times its size. The country is an archipelago of 10 islands off the west coast of Africa, known for its beaches. Nobody expected this team to do much more than show up, take photos, and go home early. They'd never played in a World Cup before. This tournament was their first appearance in history. Their qualifying run alone was already historic, a tiny footballing nation reaching the sport's biggest stage. Bookmakers gave them almost no chance in their opening match against one of the tournament's traditional powers. Nobody told the team that, though. Or if they did, nobody on the roster seemed to believe it. Keep that mismatch in mind. What follows is a story about exactly how far belief alone can carry a team. Their opening match paired them against one of the pre-tournament favorites, a team stacked with global stars. For 90 minutes, the smaller team simply refused to concede a single goal to their heavily favored opponents. The match ended scoreless. Their first ever World Cup point came against one of the sport's true giants. Their second match brought more drama. Two players scored the country's first ever World Cup goals, back-to-back. That match also finished level, an end-to-end 2-all draw against another well-regarded opponent. Their third match, a scoreless draw against another side, was enough to seal something remarkable. 3 matches, 3 draws, 0 losses, second place in their group ahead of a 2-time former champion. That result made them the smallest nation, by population, ever to reach a World Cup knockout round. A large part of the story belonged to their goalkeeper, a name almost nobody outside the islands knew before June. He was 40 years old, playing for a second-division club, and within weeks became one of the tournament's biggest stories. His save-heavy performances turned nervy draws into genuine belief that this team belonged on this stage. The knockout draw wasn't kind, though. Round of 32 brought the reigning champions and the world's most famous player, a nation of 500,000 against a nation of over 40 million. On paper, a complete mismatch. Almost nobody outside the small nation's own dressing room gave them a real chance of competing, let alone winning. For long stretches of the match, though, the smaller team matched their famous opponents chance for chance. The goalkeeper produced save after save, keeping the scoreline level far longer than anyone had predicted. The champions eventually broke through, but the smaller team kept responding, refusing to fold quietly. By the end of regulation time, the match was locked, forcing an extra half-hour to settle it. In extra time, the champions' extra quality finally told, and the smaller team's dream run came to an end. Final score: 3-2 in extra time, for a team many had expected to win far more easily. It wasn't a win, but it also wasn't the rout that almost everyone had predicted before kickoff. The goalkeeper later said all he'd really wanted out of the whole tournament was for his mother to see him play. He got that, and considerably more, becoming a global story almost overnight at 40 years old. The coach afterward called facing the champions and their star forward proof of exactly how far the team had come. He added that this was only the beginning, that the country wanted more chances against the sports giants. There's a financial side to this story too, one that fits neatly into how these tournaments actually work. Simply for advancing as far as they did, the tiny nation earned an $11 million payment from FIFA. For a country of 500,000 people, that single payment is a genuinely significant sum of money. It won't be evenly split among each citizen, but it does meaningfully fund the sport back home. Part of the underlying story is also about where the talent actually came from in the first place. Several starters were born outside the country entirely, part of a large community living abroad. A deliberate recruitment strategy, built over years, reached into that community to find eligible talent. It's one more version of a pattern showing up across this tournament: small footballing nations tapping global diasporas. Skeptics point out the draw could have been kinder, and the group stage lacked a true top 5 opponent. That's a fair note. 3 draws against 3 specific opponents isn't quite the same as 3 wins outright. But 0 losses across 4 matches against a champion included is still a genuinely rare accomplishment. The team's own coach put it simply: everyone is entitled to dream, and his players took him at his word. They didn't win the tournament, or even their knockout match. That was never the realistic goal to begin with. What they did was rewrite, permanently, what people assumed was possible for a footballing nation their size. Their story became one of the most talked about of the entire tournament, well beyond their own small population. Millions of neutral fans, with no real connection to the islands, found themselves quietly cheering for them anyway. That's a specific kind of magic tournaments like this one can still produce, even in an era of superstars. It doesn't happen through individual brilliance alone, it happens through collective belief, sustained across 4 matches. Every player on that roster will go home with a story that outlasts any single scoreline from this summer. The goalkeeper, in particular, goes from second division obscurity to a name genuinely known well beyond his own islands.
Whether this run leads to lasting investment back home is a separate, longer-term question worth watching.
Prize money alone doesn't automatically build better academies, fields, or coaching pipelines on its own. It takes years of deliberate follow-through, well after the cameras and global attention have moved elsewhere. Still, for one summer, a nation smaller than plenty of individual cities held its own on the world's biggest stage. That's not a small thing, even if the nation producing it technically is.
Every major tournament needs at least one story like this, a reminder of why upsets matter at all. This year, that story belonged to an archipelago most casual fans couldn't have located on a map beforehand.
Now, considerably more people can. That alone is a kind of lasting legacy from 4 matches of football. The team's own federation has already talked about using this run as a foundation, not a peak. Whether that foundation gets built well depends on choices made far away from any stadium or scoreline. For now, the record books simply show a debut nation that drew 3, lost 1, and left with pride intact. Bigger nations have left the same tournament with far worse results and far less to be proud of. Size, this tournament showed once again, sets the odds. It doesn't strictly determine the outcome by itself. A goalkeeper's mother got to watch her son play on the world's biggest stage at 40 years old. A nation of 500,000 people got 4 matches of genuine belief instead of the quiet dismissal they expected. Neither of those outcomes shows up in a final league table or a trophy case anywhere. Both of them, in their own way, are exactly what a World Cup is actually supposed to produce. 48 teams entered this tournament chasing a trophy. Only one could ever actually win it. Plenty of the other 47 still found something worth keeping long after the scoreline faded from memory. For one small archipelago, that something was simply proof they belonged in the conversation at all. They'll be back in qualifying for the next tournament, no longer the surprise nobody saw coming. Next time, the draws might be kinder, or they might not be. Either way, the door is open now. Sometimes the most memorable story of a World Cup isn't the team that lifts the trophy at all.